It's that time of year again. Not that kind. I mean this kind. What we're going to be doing this week is going over some basic maintenance and what we can do to better increase the longevity of our guns. In order to do that, we're going to have to go through a few different types of guns. I've got off to the side here the next thing that we'll be cleaning today. It's a little bit heavily used. This has been my gun for a little bit over a decade now, so definitely needs to be taken care of, but we'll get to that later. I just wanted to go over the basics of what it takes to maintain an airsoft pistol or rifle, but what we're also going to be doing is going over a vast spectrum of things that are going to allow us to not only maintain the guns, but make sure that we can see problems before they even happen. So that'll be this week. What we're going to be calling Spring Cleaning Week is going to be going over all the basic fundamentals that you need to know when you're sitting at your workbench at home taking care of your guns. This is going to be everything from maintenance to inspection to preventative maintenance, and then a couple of extra tips that you can do to really step your game up. But we'll be getting to that at the end of the week, so stay tuned for that. All right, starting with the 1911, it's fairly straightforward. You just need to knock this pin out first, push through on that side, and then pull it free. Once you've got a little bit of tension off of it, it tends to go a little bit easier. Pulls right out, and then your slide comes right off. So we'll get to this lower unit in a second, but now we're going to check out here because we're just in basic maintenance mode. Now, you don't need to take the slide off to just clean your barrel, but we're not just doing a cleaning, we're going to be maintaining everything. We take this, just pull it free. Okay, now we just remove this entire spring assembly. So we'll be taking off the barrel lock there, and now this should, wow, that's a little sticky, so that's something we'll have to check out. Just come free. This section of the barrel unscrews. Then you're left with a very difficult problem here, because if you take some time and look at this, it seems physically impossible for this piece to actually come out, but there's a trick. Now, if you look, this part is separate and it slides around like that, but it can't get past because of this little nub here. So what you can do to get past that, and this is a really easy trick, you go in between and you wedge just slightly. Now make sure that you're as close as you can be to getting past it, then start wedging it while you're pushing past. Just very gently, just kind of rock it, and it'll come out without doing too much damage to everything around it, which is what we're trying to do here. That's free. Now, the next part is we want to inspect that hop-up rubber because we want to make sure that everything's good there for the season. We don't want to get out there, then halfway through the season, have to change it out. It's better to do this now while we've got the time. Just unscrew this here and here. Okay. So now that comes off. The arm for the hop-up is inside of this little track on the wheel for the selector. So we're just going to bring that up. Now that's free, and so is the barrel. Let's have a look in here. So now we're going to clean the barrel properly. We don't have to worry about the hop-up unit or anything like that damaging it while we're cleaning it. So this is a great way to do this. For some reason I'm missing all of my pistol cleaning rods, so we'll have to use the rifle one today, but that's just fine. We spin a little piece of cloth on here in one direction. Just soak it with some isopropyl alcohol and try not to get overspray on here. And just be mindful of what direction you wrapped it around, and rotate it in that direction as you clean the barrel. Still spinning in the same direction the whole time. Just wanted to say thank you for hanging out. I know these videos are a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure I didn't edit out too much information. You can just see the grime that it picked up there. So that's an indication we can do this one more time. Cleaning your barrel is something that you should do often, but many people don't, me included. I don't do this nearly enough. Let's just go all the way through with this one. I'm not liking that. I'm still seeing dirt in there, so I'm going to do it again. Do this as many times as you think it needs. If you see dirt in there, just keep going. You want to have a clean barrel, obviously. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Oh yeah, much better. Okay, got this little cutout for the hop up. That goes towards the top. And then got this little notch thing on the rubber. Goes through that window. Just kind of... And then these little squares here will go in here to help, well, square things sitting where they should. See, the barrel doesn't want to spin anymore. and that's through the window. So we're in a good position there. Grab the arm for the hop-up unit. I like to start by putting it on the wheel first, on the low setting, so the least tension possible, the furthest away from the center, and just use that little hook there, then wrap it around on top, make sure you're nice and centered, and pushed up against this front edge here. Okay, now we just seat that on there, make sure everything looks happy, and just put these screws back in where we found them. Make sure you get those nice and tight because that area is going to go through a lot of wobble and impacts. All right, now we have the fun task of putting this back in there. Similar trick to how we got it out. We're going to be taking our friend the screwdriver here and getting it to the point where it binds. And just as we did before, gently pry it out as we're trying to push it past. Sometimes it binds. If it doesn't want to go forward, then you might be stuck on the outside. You got to be careful with that. Like, you can do it just by hand sometimes. Usually you can, but that's a good way to do it if it is binding a lot on you. Barrel back on. All of the grit and grime, if you've got that stuff building up in these tracks, just use a brush like this, something that's, firm bristle, but not something that'll scratch it. This is like a plastic, like a nylon. Just kind of go through those tracks. Make sure that they're nice and clean. Just really get in any of the areas where you see dust and dirt building up, because eventually it's going to try to find its way into the gun. So this lower half is going to take a bit of explaining, and we're going to be doing that at the end of the week. But for now, what we can do is just a light bit of oil, and same thing on the other side. Don't need to go crazy with this. You really don't. A little goes a long way. If you find that you're still having a slide that's catching up, look at it visually. See if you can actually see anything that looks different. If you have any imperfections in this straight line, if you've got burrs, if you've got maybe dry dirt, things like that. Same thing, just a little bit there, the inside of the slide. Every little bit of dust inside of the gun is the enemy, so just try to get ahead of it. This is going to be everything for the gun itself, but there's no point in cleaning the gun if we don't do the magazine. Because if we spend all this time cleaning the gun and then we put a dirty magazine inside of it, what do you think is going to happen, right? We're just going to end up with dirt inside of the gun, so these like to get stuck in there pretty good. So we'll try other trick I have. Access it here. Sometimes you can do it by hand. No, that's not going to do it. So we'll just give her a little. And there you go. So this doesn't want to come out, so gotta guide it. Same treatment. So this is going straight inside of the gun, so I want to make sure that this well is as clean as possible. I'm loving all this light in the workshop now. What do you think of the new setup? Let me know in the comments. Same thing in reverse. Just gotta push that tab in so it clears. Guide that back up. Guide that spring back in there. This ribbed part, that should be the last part of the pin that goes in. So you got a nice easy push for the first little while, and then you gotta finish it off. So this back in here. Put that in there, and then we got to put our barrel lock back in, center that the best we can. The flat part, we're going to slide that downwards into the slide, and then just compress the spring and put it back on that little stirrup right there, right? Make sure everything's nice and seated. That should have engaged. Sometimes what can happen if you didn't put the barrel lock on straight, you can end up with that, so just make sure that you've got that nice and seated. Now we just put the slide back on. Line it up with the slides that we greased up earlier. Push this down. You're gonna see that that gets in the way there, so just push that out of the way. Get the holes lined up. Just simply line it up and try to have it as close to the slide as possible with that little tab, and just push it back into place. Sometimes you'll have to move the slide a little bit before it fully seats itself. It should be flush on that side, and then good to go. It's one off the list. We'll be moving on to AEG maintenance next, and here's that video for you. Thank you so much for watching. Class is dismissed.